Ever felt a chill run down your spine in the solitude of the Arapaho forest? Or sensed an unseen presence in a beach house in Florida? Or been haunted by a phone that rings with no one on the other end? You've just crossed the threshold into scarier things. Today, we're not merely sharing stories. We're journeying into the heart of real-life terror. We bring you 3 bone-chilling tales. So, dim the lights, let the world outside fade, and prepare to face the eerie side of reality. Remember, these aren't just tales. They're terrifying truths that have left their victims petrified. Hold on tight. The journey into fear starts now. First story. In our early 20s, my cousin Cody and I embarked on several camping adventures in Colorado. This particular incident occurred when I was 22 and Cody was 23 in the Arapaho forest. Our flexible work schedules allowed us to take midweek breaks, which we often used for camping to avoid the weekend rush. Cody, being an Eagle Scout, naturally took the lead during these trips. We started our journey from a picnic area, hiking into the woods. After about a quarter of an hour, we found a suitable clearing to set up camp, large enough to accommodate 2 tents, a portable stove, and a campfire. We first unpacked and pitched our tents. Cody, always the efficient one, had his tent up in minutes, while I usually took over 20 minutes. Next, we arranged a circle of stones for a fire and gathered some sticks and wood. We used a fire starter and a lighter to get the fire going as the sun began to set. Cody, an excellent cook, took charge of preparing steak and burgers. We also had bear spray on hand, just in case the aroma of food attracted any black bears, although Cody always insisted that the real danger in the woods was other people, not animals. As we enjoyed our meal, we opened a few beers and played some classic rock music on the speaker. If you've never been camping, it's hard to describe the unique atmosphere created by sharing good food, drinks, and music in the wilderness with a loved one. As darkness fell, we started playing card games on a small foldable table we had brought specifically for this purpose. We were in the middle of a game of Uno when we heard a humming sound and footsteps from beyond the trees in the pitch-black forest. Cody asked me to find the flashlight, but by the time I did, the sounds had faded away. Cody admitted that it was unusual for someone to be this deep in the woods, especially near an active campfire, humming loudly. We resumed our card game, but with the music turned down low. Suddenly, a large stick landed in the middle of our campsite. It was clear that it had been thrown, not fallen from a tree. Cody shouted at the unseen intruder to leave us alone. We heard footsteps again, moving away from us. I suggested we pack up and move, but Cody insisted it was too dangerous to do so in the dark. We decided to take turns keeping watch while the others slept. Cody took the first shift, planning to stay awake and read his book. I crawled into my tent and fell asleep. I woke up in the middle of the night, which is not uncommon when camping. I saw a head peering into my tent. I thought it was Cody waking me up for my turn to keep watch. But then the zipper of the tent quickly zipped up, and the head disappeared. I called out to Cody, but there was no answer. I unzipped my tent to check the campsite. The fire was out, and Cody was not there. I went over to Cody's tent, which was zipped up. I unzipped it and found Cody fast asleep in his sleeping bag. The realization that someone else had been peering into my tent sent chills down my spine. I woke Cody up and told him someone was at our campsite. He grabbed his bear spray and suggested I sleep in his tent for the rest of the night. As I ran to my tent to grab my sleeping bag, I heard the humming sound again. We both got back in his tent and zipped it up, with our cans of bear spray by our sides. We took turns keeping watch for the rest of the night. When Cody woke me up, dawn was breaking. We packed up everything and hiked back to the car in the morning light. Although we could have driven somewhere else and camped for another night, neither of us was in the mood. This experience had unnerved us, and we both just wanted to be safe at home. It's been 6 years since this incident, and although Cody has invited me camping a few times since then, I haven't felt the urge to go. The memory of someone stalking our campsite and the sight of a head peering into my tent in the dark still haunts me. It was like a scene straight out of a nightmare. I may never go camping again. Second, my friends and I decided to rent a beach house in Florida, not knowing the unexpected turn of events that awaited us. The four of us squeezed into a car and drove down to our destination. The house was ideally located right on the beach, with the bay across the street and the beach in the backyard. The road was lined with a mix of grand and modest houses, ours being one of the latter. Each of us claimed a bedroom, and I was lucky enough to get one with a beach view. After settling in, we naturally headed out to the beach. We spent a few hours swimming, playing football, and just enjoying the beach, seemingly the only ones there apart from an older couple far down the beach. Later, we went out for dinner and hit some bars in town. When we returned, it was dark, but that didn't stop us from playing football on the beach, albeit slightly inebriated. While retrieving a missed catch, I noticed a figure standing waist-deep in the water. The moonlight reflecting off the ocean made it visible. My friends confirmed they saw it too. It was a bit odd given the late hour, but we shrugged it off as a local enjoying a midnight swim. We then sat on the deck, drinking beers until we started to feel tired. One by one, everyone went inside to sleep, leaving my friend John and me outside. Every so often, I would glance towards the water where I had seen the figure earlier. On one such glance, I noticed someone standing on the beach, seemingly facing us. It was unsettling, and we tried to ignore it, but the figure remained stationary. Feeling creeped out, we decided to call it a night. As I was getting ready for bed, I looked out the window to take in the ocean view one last time. To my horror, I saw someone standing in front of the back deck, seemingly staring at my window. I called out to John, but he didn't respond. I rushed to his room and woke him up. By the time we looked out the window, the figure was gone. As I lay in bed trying to sleep, I couldn't shake off the feeling that someone was still outside. My thoughts were interrupted by the terrifying sound of a fist knocking on the bedroom window. I was too scared to lift the blind or call out. Instead, I ran to the living room and woke everyone up. We turned on the deck lights and checked the beach, but saw no one. We also checked the front and sides of the house, but found nothing. The next day, John and I asked the nearest neighbors if they had experienced anything similar. One neighbor shared a chilling encounter from a week earlier when someone knocked on their door in the middle of the night and wouldn't answer when asked who it was. We spent the rest of the day on the beach and exploring nearby towns. Nothing happened that night, and we left the next day. To this day, I wonder what I would have seen if I had lifted the blind. Third, at the tender age of 9, I found myself home alone one evening, engrossed in my favorite video game, Metroid Prime, on my GameCube. My mother had gone out, possibly for grocery shopping, and I was instructed not to answer the door in her absence. The house phone rang, interrupting my game. My mother had always told me to answer the phone in case it was her. I rushed downstairs and picked up the phone. The caller ID showed my mother's cell phone number. The voice on the other end asked me to come outside and help with the groceries. Something about the voice didn't sound right. It didn't sound like my mother. I questioned the voice, and the response was even more unsettling. I hung up, my heart pounding. The phone rang again, displaying my mother's number. I ignored it. After a few minutes, it rang a third time, but this time from a different number. A man's voice claimed to be my father and asked me to come outside. I was taken aback. My father had passed away when I was 3. I hung up immediately. The phone kept ringing, but I ignored it each time. I couldn't call my mother because someone clearly had her phone. Then there were knocks at the front door. I peeked around the kitchen wall to see who it was. A man's muffled voice called my name from the other side, claiming to be my father. He tried to open the door, and I did something no 9-year-old should ever have to do. I called 911. The operator instructed me to hide in a lockable room until the police arrived. I hid in the bathroom with the lights off. I could hear someone trying to open the windows. They seemed to try every window and door in the house. Eventually, they gave up. The operator informed me that the police were at the front door and it was safe to go meet them. I opened the door to the police and hung up the phone. They conducted a quick investigation and asked about my mother's whereabouts. My mother returned home in a panic when she saw the police cars out front. Her phone had been stolen, which was already clear. The phone contained our address, home phone number, and other personal information. The phone's background was a picture of my mother, my little sister, and me. This could have given some creepy couple the idea that the owner of the phone was a single mom with 2 young kids, and they tried to use that to trick me into leaving the house. After this incident, my mother never left me alone at night until I was a few years older.